This was clearly not the plan, to be embarrassed, and I ain't living up to the standard that's apparent. No room for excuses, only improvements. But sit with me a moment before you jump to your conclusions on how we got here. We can start from the top, we can start with the sacks, we can start with the drops, we can start with the shots to a target that's draped. Regardless, let me talk about what's really at stake, and that's legacy. Trying to fill the role of the one that stood ahead of me. Whole city want the one took after me instead of me, and rightfully so, my homie like that. And let them tell it about me, I'ma be right back. Exchange my struggles for a rifle, that's a light pack. And I just smile and show humility despite that. Yeah. They think I'm soft, think I'm weak. My confidence is rooted in belief. They call me the one, I live for the hype. Now they tryna tell me that the choice isn't right. Tell me, did I lose it? Well, did I lose it? I gotta be myself, don't care what they say, cause I'm the only person that can stand in the way. Tell me, did I lose it? Well, did I lose it? Once there was a man on a journey, made some fatal mistakes in a hurry, sent away from all of his worries, like succeeding what many saw was Billy Graham in a jersey, to the abyss, until he reappeared proven worthy. That was me, so I know where you been. What kind of sort of the difference is that you think it, but I knew I was him. Knew I would smack the competition that blend. Knew I would change the Carolinas and the league before the laces would spin. And it wasn't easy. They brought me back after releases if they didn't need me. And then they got you, and respectfully the whole thing just feel like a waste. A press release about a trade they tried to play in my face. 7 years in the desert with no chance of escape. And a fan base that sees it as an utter disgrace. Just be patient with them, they don't deserve it. But it's on you, you gotta earn it. They call me the one, I live for the hype. Now they tryna tell me that the choice isn't right. Tell me, did I lose it? Well, did I lose it? I gotta be myself, don't care what they say, cause I'm the only person that can stand in the way. Tell me, did I lose it? Well, did I lose it?
Man, what's good, y'all? What is good? My name is John Farmer, host of the One Carolina Show. I appreciate y'all joining me on this early morning impromptu, but I guess sort of expected live. You know, there's a lot going on. I hadn't really been tapped in lately. Been taking care of some business, but we definitely coming back soon with more consistent content. But I appreciate y'all being here with me right now. I know there's probably not a lot of people watching, but we do have 55 people between, two platforms. So I appreciate y'all showing up this morning for your boy. Yes. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. And I'm going to just get right to it. Salute to a few boys I see in the chat. The boys, too, said, let's go, made for more. What's good, man? Appreciate you. All right, so I wanted to just talk about something. I want to start with this, right? Start from the beginning because it's a very, very good place to start. All right. I tweeted this yesterday because there was a whole bunch of just absolute craziness going on, right? And it's for good reason. I'm not the type of person that's going to get frustrated. Actually, let me just read this real quick. So I said 2 things can be true. I said, 1, you cannot want to pay Milton more than Derek Brown and feel justified, right? 2, you can be frustrated with losing out on deals because of 7 years of mediocrity and feel justified. A lot of people out there will tell you how to fan. I ain't one of them. Go off, right? All right. Hey, salute to you, Miss Rand. Tell them I said what's up at work. All right, so here's my thought process behind this, right? When you take care of your players and you pay players early, you have opportunity to have cap space that other teams don't. New England is in a very unique situation. Number one, because they're still kind of coming off of years of, greatness, right? And so things are changing. You know, they paid who they needed to pay. They've released who they needed to release. They freed up a ton of cap space, right? In the situation of what happened with Milton Williams, I think it's important to see this from both sides. Because I know on one side, people can say, yo, man, you being overzealous as a fan. You know, you shouldn't be so upset about this. Because I saw a lot of that, you know, and there was no like one or two people in particular. I myself in the beginning, like when the deal was not closed, initially, I was even like, man, dang, you know, because so much of this happens. It seems like it happens to us all the time, right? But this is the result of multiple years. And this is where I'm on the other side of this. This is a result of multiple years of not just mediocrity, but bad, terrible, horrible decision-making, right? By a front office, giving away picks, overpaying for players, right? And then your salary cap situations go to complete crap. So I absolutely love the first move that we made, which was paying J.C. Horn. I thought it was well-deserved. You know, to me, the reason why the J.C. Horn thing made so much sense and why I liked it so much is because with J.C., like we know the injury history has been a real thing, right? But J.C. deserved it. In the moments that he played when he was healthy, you saw what he could become, and then last year was a culmination of that, right? So he deserved to get his bag. Now, some would argue, man, highest all-time pay. I mean, that's just the market's going to set differently. But I like it because it shows like, look, this is not like a Cincinnati situation with like Jamar Chase winning the Triple Crown having to fight for his money, right? This is, hey, man, you show improve, and we going to pay you. So salute to, you know, Dan Morgan, salute to even David Tepper, you know, for making that decision because he's got to push the button to say yes on that, right? And I think it's the first step in the right direction. But let's go back to the Milton situation. So I feel like we got played. I feel like we got backdoored by New England, right? They used us, Milton maybe, even his agents. I wouldn't put this on Milton specifically, but his agents used us as a leverage play. Hey, Carolina says they're going to pay you $20 million a year. Let's put you out there to see exactly what that looks like and who else is willing to bite on it. And New England came out of nowhere because, to be honest with you, of all the reports that I saw, I didn't really see many reports of him linked to the Patriots. Most of the reports were him linked to us, and I think linked to, there was a few other teams. Y'all help me out in the chat. But I don't think the Patriots are one of the major players in the Milton Williams sweepstakes, right? So, like I said, I don't want to play both sides of the fence. I try to be careful with that. Like, if I'm going to have a take, I'm going to have a take, regardless of whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. But I will say this. And listen, I'm not going to take, like, I see somebody tapping in already. I do have the link pinned in the chat. I meant to say this earlier. I'm going to go through a couple of points first, and then I'm going to bring on whoever wants to tap in. So, Ryan, salute to you clicking the link. Give me just a few minutes. I'm going to go through some topics, and then I'm going to get right to you guys. So just hit us back give me about 10 minutes to get through this, right? Because I want you to respond to some things that I say, and I should have put that clarification there first. So just bear with me. All right. So when I looked at some of the frustration that people had with the Milton Williams situation, I had to ask myself, okay, why? Why are people so frustrated about a, mind you, rotational defensive tackle? He wasn't even a starter, right? A rotational defensive tackle. I know sometimes we can get caught up as prisoners of the moment. But if you really pay attention to what's going on, you don't just get caught up in what's happening like right there, like Super Bowl. You've been watching something that's been happening, and even you yourself have experienced. You've seen it for yourself. So let's go to what is real. And you can see why people were upset. I know that people look at PFF sometimes as like a, man, it's just analytic driven, it's just stat driven, whatever like that. But it's just a culmination. It's an accumulative barometer. I'm using some big words here. But it's an accumulative barometer of information that is gathered based on not, stats, potential projections, things like that, and next gen stuff or whatever. So it's, I don't think you should use PFF as a gauge to see what a player would be long term, but I do think it's important to use it on their work that they've already done, right? And sometimes you can look at tape, and tape might tell you one thing and PFF say something totally different, because the reality is that it is ran by people, and sometimes people have agendas. You know, it just is what it is, right? It's a true story. But in this case, I think when you look at the tape and you look at the PFF grades, things match up. Like, I get it. Milton Williams, yes, it's true, was a rotational defensive tackle. But he was one of the best in the business when he was available, right? As we can see here, a 91.7 pass rush grade. He was number one amongst all defensive interior linemen, right? And I thought about this, right? I said, okay, what is it that really drove people to be so upset behind this move? Because some people are just like, yo, you really want to pay a defensive tackle, like a guy that's not even like your, like, I mean, this ain't like the superstar edge rusher or whatever like that. Like, the sack totals aren't like enormous or whatever like that. And then I thought about this. I said, you know what? We've seen this in real time. And some of us remember, right? So what am I talking about? Notice this play. This is the Bryce Young super play that happened in the end zone of the Philly game where, you know, he breaks containment, you know, almost passes the line of scrimmage, but just in time throws the ball down the field to Xavier Legette. But what do I want to point out? Notice who's double teamed. 98 is right there getting guarded by Robert Hunt. He's one-on-one with Robert Hunt. Where does the protection slide to? When this play starts, and I'll go back and do it again. When this play starts, notice who's getting double teamed. That's a high-paid guard and Cade Mays the center, both on Milton Williams. You see it. Immediate double team. Situational football. Now Bryce gets away from Jalen Carter and Josh Sweat. Why didn't they double Jalen? Begs the question, right? In my estimation, it's either one or two things. Number one, when you get into these situations, situational football, if you will, you are going to look at tape, and tape's going to give you a measurement of what you should do in those moments, who you should focus on, who you should key on. Or you're just going to look at what's been going on all game long and just be like, hey, man, you got to do something about this guy because he keeps penetrating. Somehow he keeps sliding through the A-gap. How? Put a double on him. Maybe he won't. They didn't put a double on the guy from Georgia, the guy that's the high-paid guy, the guy that was drafted 8th overall, our pick, right? They put it on Milton Williams. Because if you're that disruptive, I need to take you out of here, buddy. I need you out of the play. That's the only way this thing is going to work in this territory, hostile, in your own end zone, with very little time on the clock to make plays. Kudos to our offensive line for being able to hold up Jalen Carter, Robert Hunt one-on-one. Icky gave as much as he could to Josh Sweat for as long as he could. But Cade and Damian had to double team Milton Williams. So I'll say this. To those that showed their frustration yesterday, that were highly upset about what they saw, a team that has given up 3,000 yards rushing, a team that had the worst defense in NFL history, excuse me if I don't feel this, like, some empathy for those who were super frustrated yesterday, regardless of how the money situation worked out, for being upset that this slipped through our fingers, especially when we remember this. I can understand it. I can level with it, and I can be empathetic. I can also say, you know what? I understand that you don't want this guy to get paid more than Derrick Brown. But you also can look at what a future could look like if that guy and Derrick Brown are on the field together. It could be extremely disruptive. Extremely disruptive. So I wanted to show that because I thought, you know what? I'm not going to be one of these people that's like, yo, you're crazy for how you feel as far as like your outward, burst of excitement for this not happening. Because honestly, in the beginning, before we really knew about the money, before the money really became a thing, the initial reaction, just about all of us. Now, I know some of us turned tide and was just like, you know what? We understand a little bit more. Some of us started to become fake, if I'm just going to keep it a buck. Some of us turned fake. Because some of us was tight in the beginning. And then some of us started dunking on people who was upset about it. Let's just keep it real. But when I look at this, I understand why people were frustrated behind the situation. Because this don't happen for us often. That's all. Tyree Ross, what's good? What's up, Doug? Appreciate you, man, coming through. Doug said, I honestly think the Pats were the mystery team where they said the reports of contract that 3 teams were interested. Okay, I can see that. Very much could be a case. I can see that. Yo, we got 172 people watching between 2 platforms. Y'all make sure to smash that like button. I appreciate y'all tapping in with me today. So, moving right along. So then, when the Milton situation kind of, dissipated, the next thing was, all right, well, what do we do now? What's going to happen now? We got completely, I wouldn't say fleeced out of a deal. We just got outbidded. That's all. It's not that complicated. We got outbidded. Somebody else came to the table with a bigger deal because they got more money to pay. And who knows? Could this turn out to be, in my estimation, I think that there's not going to be that big of a drop-off in his game going to New England, right? I think Milton Williams is a real dude, man. He's the real deal. So I'm not going to say like, okay, well, now that you have number one responsibility, that your game is going to fall off, right? Because you're not, in our reality, I could be wrong. I'm not an expert when it comes to football, but being double teamed and having an opportunity for people to double team you is not necessarily it's a scheme issue from the offensive line perspective. Like they're scheming to take you out of the game, but it's not really a scheme thing when it comes to you having they're not manufacturing opportunities for him, if that makes sense. 4-man fronts are not manufactured opportunities. That's a hat on a hat. And the thing that could have been so beautiful about this is it's pick your poison, right? For all of you who love the Shamar Stewart, opportunity in the draft, right? If you can imagine a 4-man front with, let's say, Clowney, Derek Brown, Milton, and Shamar Stewart, it really is a pick your poison. Which one of them do you want to go one-on-one with? Because more often than not, the one-on-one opportunity is going to win on that defensive line. And that's the stuff that kind of frustrates you when you look at losing out on an opportunity like this, right? But we fast forward. And we get Bobby Brown III, which obviously it's not a comp. And salute to Bobby. It's not a comp, but it's an upgrade. A humongous upgrade at that. Pause. It is a humongous upgrade. The Carolina Panthers have signed defensive tackle Bobby Brown III from Los Angeles Rams as a part of their effort to enhance the run defense. That's important. Pretty solid run defensive grade, right? The 24-year-old, a 4th-round pick in the 2021 NFL draft. And let's stop right there for just a second. I'm not saying, I know a lot of people would be willing to give up picks for opportunity to bring in players. I'm big on development. I love the opportunity for development. For example, I know there were some people that were, pretty upset about not getting Dre Greenlaw. I wasn't. And the reason is because, one, I think what they're telling you, the moves that they're making is okay, there were some things that we had to address, right? And we'll get to the rest of those in a second. But the things that we necessarily didn't have, we stuck with a specific group. We see that we have some players on the team. I'm telling you, man, I'm really high on that Jacoby Wyndham kid. I really am. I don't know about y'all, but just the small sample size that I saw, I see potential, I don't want to go as far as to say greatness, because I don't want to just be throwing that term around loosely, but functionality. I see someone that could be serviceable, that could turn into a really good, potentially great player. You never know, right? But I think that they're comfortable, because think about it. Shaq walks out the door. They don't replace him. Josie Jewell's your guy. And obviously injuries were a thing. And in that opportunity during injuries, you got to see what you had in Wyndham. So it's okay, I don't even think personally, I think if they do address linebacker, it'll probably be in the late rounds of the draft. I don't see them picks 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd, whatever, unless we move some, picks around and we don't, we move back which that is an option now, right? But if we move back or we, move up, whatever like that, I don't think that any of those moves are going to be for a linebacker. I think that they do that maybe, in signing some guys after the draft. I just don't see that personally, because I really do believe they believe in Trevin Wallace. And I think a move like this can help guys like that tremendously, because this was such a huge area of need for us, was that zero tech, that, that complete space eater nose tackle. And Bobby Brown is going to fill that, right? demonstrated growth in his role, finishing the 2023 season with a career best 44 tackles and impressive tackling ratings. By the numbers, in 2023 was, obviously the best season. The Panthers ranked last in the league for run defense in the previous season, allowing 179.8 yards per game. Bobby Brown will join fellow defensive lineman Ashawn Robinson, who also has experience in versatile playing roles. Oddly enough, last time they played together, they hoisted a Lombardi. For whatever that's worth. Bottom line, the Panthers are strategically reinforcing their defense by acquiring young talent like Bobby Brown III, who has shown potential for growth and versatility. This move aims not only to address immediate defensive concerns, but also build a formidable future for the team. And I think that's important. This may not be, we're not going to see a lot of the sexy picks, right? A lot of the sexy, the DK Metcalf. I'll be honest with you. That was one that I was pushing for. I would have really liked to seen DK Metcalf in a processed blue jersey, right? But I'm not upset about the moves that they've made, because what they're doing is trying to build a nucleus. Because once you do that, then it becomes easier for you to be able to make smarter decisions when it comes to drafting, right? Now I don't have to go out and draft necessarily for need. At pick 8, I'm not saying that you got everything that you need. What I am saying, though, is that this team won 5 games. We put up 40 points at the end of, 40-plus points at the end of last year. What I'm saying is that there were times that this team showed some fight, right, defensively. I think with getting back Derrick Brown, if you keep the troops healthy and you add in these pieces, and some of these, like a lot of these are going to be depth guys, right? Some of these guys aren't going to be asked to be like, 10, 12, 13, sack guys per year, right? But you start to build that depth because you don't know what the draft has to offer, right? And if you bring in these guys like Turk, for example, Turk ain't a world beater. Turk ain't going to come in here and, I don't know. You never know. Like Frankie Louva, I don't know if many of us expected him to be what he became with us, but Turk could come in and have an excellent season. You never know, right? He could bring some of his expertise and knowledge. That's another thing that I love about some of the players that we got. You're bringing in guys who know what it looks like to get to the next level. Turk has won a Super Bowl. Bobby's won a Super Bowl, right? So you're bringing in guys with experience. So when you start bringing in younger guys, what's that whole thing? Showing you how to be a pro, right? No need to knock on a specific receiver. Seems like every time I see this receiver, I'm seeing horses, right? But what I'll say about that is this. At some point, it's like the perception that you put out there is important for people to be able to, you don't want to be the guy, the last thing you want to be is if things go bad for you next year, is you to just be kind of pegged as the guy that's like, oh man, he don't take nothing serious. Even though we know that dude work his tail off. But perception sometimes can be reality, especially when you dealing with fanatics, not fans, fanatics. I happen to be one of them. So do with that what you will. But I like the Bobby Brown move. I think the Bobby Brown move is going to help tremendously with the linebacking core, help those guys to be able to play more open in space. I don't think Bobby Brown is going to be asked to be some, sack machine. As a matter of fact, I saw this was really interesting. This is his PFF grade compared to Milton Williams. Overall grade was 63. His pass rushing grade was not great, right? But what was great, or no, I wouldn't say great, but better, 67.7 in the run defense. Space eater. You know what I'm saying? Can get in the backfield. It's going to take a lot to drive this man to the ground. This is hat on a hat, man to man. Let's see what the weight room looked like for you. And I love that. No sacks. No forced fumbles. 26 solo tackles. But boy, hey, Trevin Wallace, you're not going to have a guard eating you alive when you try to blitz. I'm going to help you with that. Now, on the flip side, you're looking at Milton. It's another one of them reasons I say, man, look, I know the run defense was awful, but, man, that pass rushing grade is crazy. 6 sacks, 1 forced fumble. That's crazy, y'all. So I ain't mad at the people who was mad about it. Just saying. Anyway, take a look at some of these comments here. Tyler Jones says all the free agents we picked up yesterday, they are all really good in run defense and tackling. I would agree. Caleb Dixon said keyword is young talent. What's up, Doug says, John, remember when you had me on the show? The one thing I was looking at are the players who have great run defensive grades and low missed tackle percentage. I do remember. Yes, it's important. Yes, Quante, keep pounding. The Temperance Panther says, Greenlaw's injury history scares me. Dre was someone I was more than okay with passing on. Soon to be 28-year-old linebacker, a year removed from an Achilles tear, is a gamble. I couldn't agree more. And even, look, I don't even think that if he was, take the injury part out of it. I think that if he was available and he was not injury prone, that they still wouldn't have made that move, right? And the reason is because, like I said, I really believe that they believe in Trevor Wallace. I believe what they saw from Jacoby Wyndham last year was like, hey, if one of these guys goes down, or we need to rotate, right? Or even the potential for someone like Jalen Walker to come in, who's probably, if he gets drafted, going to be kind of have a hybrid player. He's going to play some off ball. He's going to play some edge, right? So I don't think that was a thing anyway. But either way, I appreciate you commenting, though. What's up, Doug said, once Milton Williams was out of the reinforcements we got, I love it. Once Milton Williams was X'd out the reinforcements we got, I love it. Yes, I agree. I like a lot of the players that we got. I do. Tyree Ross says, what if we get Nick from to go with Trayvon secondary would be sick. And I'm going to talk about Trayvon in just a second. I think Tyree, and then we can just go straight to this. I feel like he kind of does a lot of the same things, right? Like really good in the box, but he's also good in open space. I don't know. I think that's interesting because I'm not 100% sure that they wouldn't necessarily like be the same kind of person. I will tell you this though. I like him, man. I like him. I mean, the combine was, what it was. And this dude is an absolute freak of nature, but the tape, man, when you watch him on tape, he's everywhere, and, to me, this could be, we'll talk about this in just a second. I'll circle back to this in a minute, Tyree. Tyler Jones says, don't get me wrong. He's a dog. I agree. He's a liability in run coverage though. Troy Steele, keep pounding. Salute. Jay Bomber says, greetings, salutation. I love the free agents we got. That's cool, man. Appreciate you. All right. Make sure to smash that like button. 257 people watching between two platforms, 26 likes. Let's get them up. All right. Moving right along. So you talked about it. Trayvon Morag, right? 6'2", 202. Shout out to John Ellis for this information. Great follow on X. If you're not following John Ellis at One Panther Place, please do it. John says he's a zone safety with toolbox to play high and low. Tons of, except TCU. Elite timing, feel on blitzes, tackling machine, rarely misses. Presence, tone, durability. Terrific move. Now, I know some people would be upset about the money. And I'll tell you this, man. We saw this last year when we paid for Damian Lewis, when we paid for Robert Hunt. When you have made moves over time, and I hate to dig up the past because I think it's important that we move on, right? You have to move on eventually. But when you make moves like the Panthers have made in the past, it's very important to know that sometimes you got to do some things that you don't necessarily want to do to get to where you want to be. And one of those things is overpaying players. You're going to do that, right? These free agents still, this is the one thing that people have to remember. If, let's just say hypothetically that we were a team like Washington, that has shown a turnaround, and we had the cap space to to sign a Milton Williams. Milton Williams is well within his right to go wherever he chooses. Now, I know we got outbid, obviously, but maybe Milton decides, you know what, 26 is cool, like that's a lot of money, but I really don't want that much of a drop-off when it comes to, the production of the team, right? And you're going to get that when you go to New England. Obviously, it's not going to be the same thing. But I wouldn't mind going here. I like some things that they have going on, and I like the culture. I like the tradition of this specific franchise, right? That's important. So I might not take 26, but I'll take 23 if that's what you got to offer. I don't think that between 20 and 26, that's a huge jump. So obviously he made the decision that was best for him and his family by going to New England at $26 million a year. But yeah, I mean, these guys get to choose where they want to go. So when you get a Trayvon Morag, when you get, whoever, it doesn't matter from last year to this year, you have to take into account 7 years of mediocrity, 7 years of, and it's not just the mediocrity, man. It's not, you're not just looking at 7 years of a team that has struggled to put games together. You're looking at 7 years of decisions too. And I ain't talking about like the Sam Darnold stuff, the, CJ Henderson stuff. I don't think these guys are worried about that. I think what guys like this look at it personally, right? And I know that some people will be like, man, I can't believe you're bringing this up, but I'm going to bring it up. The rookie that you drafted the previous year, you bench him after 2 years. The guy that basically made your franchise relevant outside of outside of Charlotte anyway, in like I guess, let me be careful with this. So I'm not saying that Cam made us relevant like overall, because obviously we went to a Super Bowl. We've had this conversation, right? When Cam was talking about the locker room full of losers thing. So I'm not going to go too deep on that. But what I'm saying is that what Cam did for the Carolinas cannot be overstated, right? And you allowed him to seek a trade when it looked like his career was pretty much over. And you could make an argument that it was, right? Who knows? But the point is that when you treat people like that, and then you don't pay certain people, you let people walk out the door, this is the kind of effect. This is what happens. And it's the business, right? But we haven't made any decisions that have helped us to be able to recover from those decisions until now. I think last year's draft was a good step in the right direction. I think this year's free agency, last year's offensive line, changeover in a year to go from one of the worst offensive lines in football to having one of the top 10, top, 5, whatever you want to say, depending on, which stats you look at in football the year later. And I think that's important to note because that's not easy to do. Ask me how I know. We've been trying to do this for years. And y'all know that too, right? That's not easy to do. If we're honest with ourselves, like that's where I'm going to throw Dan the biggest vote of confidence is like to do that in a year and to do that with picks. Look, we got a team copying us now. Ben Johnson himself. And look, I know people got their feelings about Ben. I'm always going to be partial to Ben. I went to high school with Ben, so that's my man. So like seeing him copy the formula that we showed last year and how it could flip over that easy, right? So they go out and they signing Thuney and all these different players, signing guards, no big time sexy picks, no receivers, nothing like that. No, we are going to fix the trenches. And that's why I like what the moves that we made between yesterday and probably still making right now. I know I got some ESPN alerts on my phone. I don't know if we made any changes as of yet. Let me see. Okay, nothing so far. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that there was nothing that was happening. Okay, let me see. Okay, sorry. All right. Anyway, so yeah, you're going to be in a situation where overpay is going to happen. But I like the direction that they're going. They are 100% focused on doing what is necessary to be able to take care of a need in the trenches. Like Dave Canales said it. We all said it. Nose tackle is a huge importance in the 3-4 defense. And I'm not saying that Bobby Brown is going to be the, end all be all when it comes to nose tackles, but at least, look, we got somebody that's more formidable than who we had. I ain't trying to take a dump on who we had. Y'all already know his name. And it rhymes with, shot total. Anyway, got a super chat. Let's go ahead and read that real quick. Appreciate that super chat. All right, so Will Robinson said, super chat from Will Robinson, 843. Glad I caught you live. Keep pounding. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate the love, too. Hey, we got 308 people watching between two platforms. Let's make sure to smash that like button. 33 likes. Let's keep it going. Straight up. All right. So, next up, shout out to Goaty Season. Another one of my favorite follows, right? But Goaty Season says, here's a few of the players that we have taken or that we've grabbed and some of the money and what it looks like. So obviously we paid J.C. Horn the 4 years, $100 million. Mike Jackson, 2 years, $14 million. I like that. Salute to Mike Jackson. He deserved to get re-signed. Trevon Moehrig, 3 years, $51 million. Tashawn Wharton, that's Turk, 3 years, $45 million. Bobby Brown, 3 years, $21, and Patrick Jones, 2 year, $20. Trayvon, Tershawn, or Turk, Bobby, and Patrick. I think those are guys that, yes, they will see a lot of starting time, but now you're building depth. DJ Wanham, if he's healthy, he's a starter. Jadeveon Clowney, obviously going to be a starter or potentially rotational. As a situational pass rusher, Jadeveon Clowney was fantastic with Baltimore the year before we got him, right? So if you put him back in a similar role, now you're getting the best version of what he can offer you, right? And he's getting older, doesn't necessarily have to be gassed, playing every single play or whatever. And still, man, this is the beautiful thing. I said this before. And look, I want to put this out now. Now y'all can tap the link. If you want to chat, tap the link. I put the link in the chat. You can tap the link, come in, give me your thoughts on what we've talked about. Ryan, if you're still out there, tap the link, man. I'd love to talk to you. But I'll keep talking. If you want to tap the link, tap it, and we'll join in together. But like I said, I like these moves. I love the depth opportunities, right? This draft, man, we've said this before. If there ever was a draft that you could fix a defense, this might be the one. Because you got so many different ways you can go, right? Inevitably, I know 8 to 57 is a huge fall off, right? Now, personally, I'm going to tell y'all where I'm at today. And it changes. It changes from day to day. I'm going to keep it a buck. We'll do another mock draft, not today, but soon. If I was drafting today based on free agent moves that we made right now, there's not a chance unless I seen a mock where Tyler Warren goes 5th overall to Jacksonville. It may happen. And I know a lot of people with, Mason Graham, I've been seeing that name a lot. Who knows if Mason falls? I don't know. I don't think he will. I feel like New England would likely double dip right there because the Mason Graham, Milton Williams looks extremely similar to what you just saw in Philly, especially if he turns out to be the kind of pro that, of the Jalen Carter persuasion. So I could see them double dipping there, especially considering their coach too, Mike Vrabel. That makes a lot of sense. But, man, if Tyler Warren's off the board, which is a good chance he could be, there is no way. Sometimes addition by subtraction is just important as anything else. Man, I'm telling y'all, I don't know about y'all. I am not prepared to watch Tetairoa McMillan. And I know some people think it could be a reach. I know the draft. I think a lot of with Tet, just like a lot of these other players, it's draft fatigue. People get, really burnt out talking about these players. The production is there. I don't think we need to overthink this. I'm personally not prepared to watch Tet McMillan serve us up year after year after year if he becomes the comp of who he's been comp to in the league. Now, I know a lot of people say Drake London. I heard somebody say that he is Drake London body type, but could run routes like Ladd McConkey, right? And when you look at his tape, he's pretty impressive. If he's there at 8, I'm not passing on him. 1, because I think he would sure up your X receiver spot, right? That takes care of that. 2, because I don't want him going to New Orleans. There ain't no way I want to see that twice a year. No way. If he turns out to be him and Olave, if he turns out to be the guy that you think he is, I'm not willing to see that twice a year. I can deal with if y'all take Jalen Walker, even though that might be tough, but I can live with that. I got an offensive line that I feel like can, hold its weight against something like that, right? Or Shamar or, whoever, you name your pick there, Mikael Williams. But Ted, man, y'all seen what we have been dealing with Mike Evans for the last 10, 13 years, right? I'm not trying to see that twice a year personally from a guy who that would be a potential comp of him. Because the thing is that you don't know what these players are going to develop into when they get here. When Smitty was drafted, who knew that he would become the player that he became, right? Chad Ochocinco is another one, man. Antonio Brown. Like, these guys, they start off as returners, and then they become, all-world receivers. So if Tet's projection, like as far as, separation down the field, who he's working with, how he's working out, his training, the nutrition, all of that put together, if you're banking off of what he's shown in college and you can add to that repertoire, I said the same thing about XL. XL showed some stuff this year that was not on tape last year for him in South Carolina, right? Or this past year, I should say. He showed some stuff, right? If XL don't drop that pass in Philly, we might not even be having this conversation. Matter of fact, we wouldn't be having this conversation because we would be saying, that's it. Two plays completely changed, and that's so crazy. Two plays changed the trajectory of how, in my opinion, now some of y'all may think different, how I see XL. I still see XL as somebody who can be great, right? And somebody who's going to be great. Not can be, but going to be, right? But man, if he makes that grab against Philly, and if he doesn't get that ball stripped out of his hand in New Orleans, we're looking at him completely different because his stat line would be different and he would have had a potential walk-off because they still had some time on the clock. But my guess is that it would have probably been a walk-off to beat Philly in Philly. That completely changes the narrative about him, right? But, again, at 8 right there, you can do kind of whatever you want, right? If you want to take Jalen Walker, have that hybrid guy that can, play off ball, play edge, you got that as an opportunity. If you want to take Mike Green, if you feel like he could be just an absolute, horror coming off the edge, you got that opportunity. Shamar Stewart, if you want to take a gamble on somebody who is an absolute physical freak, but may not have played in the, best system to show his traits of what he can be and project to, right? You got that opportunity. Nick Skirton, that's another name, that's out there that's, a edge player that could be, dominant. Or Matthew Golden. There's some people that think that Matthew Golden's the wide receiver 1 in this draft, right? If you're a believer there and if they have him on the board and he's right there, then you can shore up that position. Or Tyler Warren. Like I said, I really like Tyler Warren. That could be an opportunity as well. So who knows? Let's go to some of these comments here. Word, Mike Evans cooked us and kept us out of the playoffs during the Wilkes regime. That's right. J.C. Horn, man. If J.C. Horn was healthy, all of everything that we've seen over the last 3 years probably wouldn't exist. If we make the playoffs that year, who knows what happens, right? We probably don't draft Bryce Young. We probably run it back with Sam Darnold and Steve Wilkes as our head coach. But one player pretty much ended that for us because we had no answer for him. And I am not going to take a risk. If when they're doing their draft board, if Tet's at the top, but then they realize, okay, you got one or two choices. It's either I'm taking Tet or I'm feeling a need. Tet is, yes, a need, but he's not the biggest need. There might be another bigger need there. Maybe Malachi Starks is back on the board again because maybe he plays the safety position to complement what we just got in Trevon Moehrig, and that would be a better fit. That's more of a need, right? Even though I feel like Xavier Woods is still solid, personally. But that's more of a need. Man, look, if Tet there and he number one on your board, he number one on somebody else's too. And that somebody else may be the team that's in your division that you're going to have to face twice a year. No, I'm not taking that risk. Off the board, I'm taking him. If he flame out, he flame out. But it ain't going to be in a jersey that's not processed blue. Tet didn't play any winning football in college. He won't be a Panther. I disagree. HC, something. Tet reminds me of A.J. Green, but I feel the Patriots going to get him. They might. Macho Man, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, y'all get the likes up. We got 432 people watching between two platforms. Make sure to smash that like button. Troy Steele says we have the greatest running back duo in the league with Bobby Brown and Michael Jackson. Drop hits all season long. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Look, here's another thing. Man, Will Johnson, bro, you want to talk about potential LOB 2.0? Or for us, Thieves Avenue, but Legion of Boom, man. You draft Will, you got JC, Trevon Moehrig. Maybe you grab a safety like Lathan Ransom, in the later rounds, or, somebody that can, fill that, that other safety spot. Or you go back with Woods, who, also, like I said, I like Woods. Things can get interesting. Things can get very interesting. That's what I'm saying. Like, we are far from done with how this team is going to look going into next year. And I think this defense is going to be formidable. But I'm more excited. Honestly, y'all, I truly am more excited to see what we do on offense. I can't wait to see offensively what decisions they make. What do they think? Because we can think what we think. Like right now, because there's been no moves made, at least to my knowledge, I'm not on X, so I can't, I'm on X, but I'm not looking at anything to see, what's going on. But as far as receivers are concerned, you do have to take into account the developmental arc. I mean, there's some people that believe that number one receiver is on our roster right now, and it's not XL. It's 18. And I don't think they would necessarily be wrong in their assessment based on what we saw last year. And I think that it's possible that an offseason with him, hey, man, I'm not worried about where I'm going. I'm not worried about if I'm going to be on the roster. I ain't got to worry about nobody in front of me. You know what I'm saying? At this point, like, I know I'm getting snaps because of what I put on tape. Now I can really get out here and get in my bag. Now I can get in my training bag. Now I can link up with, you know what I'm saying, other players, whether that's Smitty or Moose or whoever, you know, linked to the team or whoever else, you know, even some, you know, current players on other teams, you know, to try to, you know, figure out like what can I do to train to get, you know, better? How can I, you know, better my release? You know what I'm saying? How can I better my, you know, contested catch opportunities or whatever like that? And then you're working with Bryce in the offseason. You know what I'm saying? So much can be done. So much can be done. But gonna add one of my people, my homies, C. Dougie, to the show. Man, y'all welcome C. Dougie. What's up, man? Can you hear me?
You hear me? Yeah,
I
can I
don't.
hear you?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a little. Where you at, man? You in Cabo? What's up?
Yeah. Nah, let me hang up and then try to come back on. Give me 1 second.
Bet. All right, so he'll be back with us in just a second. In the meantime, I'm gonna read some of these comments. All right. So Macho said, "I'm sorry. Man, come on, bro. I ain't messing with y'all today, man." Troy still said, "I was talking about the R&B music names, but I appreciate you. I was talking about the R&B music. Maybe I must have messed up. My bad." Oh yeah, Makuba. Yeah, he will be there in later rounds. That's right. James said Xavier Woods is horrible. Again, I don't agree. Kenneth Grant, Derek Brown. Malachi dropping to the second. Hey man, look, I don't think James that Nick necessarily will. I think Nick pretty much cemented himself as a first round pick. I don't know where it'll be, but it's possible. Malachi is very possible. But there's a lot of people who like Makuba over Malachi Starks. I don't know. I can't say enough about that because I didn't watch them enough to have an educated opinion on that. But either way. All right, let's try this again. All right, where you at, Doug?
Is that better?
Yeah, it's a little grainy, but it's good. What's good with you?
Chilling, man.
So what you got, man? What you think about the free agency? What you think about the topics? What we talked about? Let me have it.
Um, really and truly, we just really got outbid for Milton Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I already know you follow me on X, and I was telling like everybody chill. Like I understand everybody wants to blame Dan Morgan, but Dan Morgan isn't the problem. Like you said, I don't know who leaked the information. The Panthers didn't. Most of the Panther media outlets didn't leak the information, so it was coming from mainstream media. So, with that, it was more of, I mean, people can say we dropped the ball, but in my opinion, we did. We did what we had to do. We were his first. We were his first. Offer, which was the 20 million. And then when you look at the difference, it was the 6 million between us and the Patriots. Everybody knew the Patriots had money. Mike Vrabel being a new coach, he wants to bring that persona, that mantra, the Patriots football is back. He was a former Patriot. So I think they really went heavy in to making reinforcements for that team going into his first year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Other than that, like, I mean, if you look at it, one thing point that I'm not going to repeat is, like you said, is we have depth now. One thing Carolina has had a problem with is having depth pieces. You
Yeah,
got to go pick
agree.
somebody up from somebody's practice squad.
Yep.
You got to go get somebody off the street,
Yep.
like what we did with the corner position. Again, I don't think we're done. I do think we need to address certain positions still, linebacker and safety. But from where we're at a standpoint right now, I do think this defense is better. Area that we are better in is stopping the run. And that's one thing that Carolina was very bad at last year was stopping the run. So um every player that has been signed has either had an elite
Mm-hmm.
or has had a above average run stoppage grade. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not mad at the pieces. I understand the whole thing of getting Tech or getting Tyler Warren. I still think it's too early to call because one area that we did not really address is edge. And whenever me and you had, I called our part one because part two was coming up with us vice versa on each other's platforms.
Yeah.
One thing I said is you have a Warner that's about to be a free agent.
Hmm.
You have Clowney who's on his last year of a contract. So what are you really going to do whenever you need depth pieces? You don't wait till it's actually time for you to address the need. Go ahead and attack the need now,
Hmm.
and then go ahead and have that player ready in that staple whenever they need to go ahead and put, you know, first team reps out there or be that mainstream player.
I agree with that. I agree with a lot of your points. Now, I'll say this. I understand the Milton Williams, money situation, right? And I think that
Hmm.
so let me ask you this. When we talk about cap space and we talk about you would know this better than I would. So you can answer this for me. JC Horn's contract, then you sign Milton Williams. Let's just say hypothetically they said, you know what? New England was super aggressive at 26. We gonna match the 26, but we really want you here with us. Was there a possibility that they could do that? Now take all the moves that they made out of it, all the other stuff. Could they have done that if they wanted to? Where you go, Doug? Lord have mercy. Doug in the Poconos, man. Doug in Iraq. We're gonna get Doug back. Doug, tap back in, man. Look, I don't know where he at, but he's somewhere. Somewhere having some fun. I know Doug on like a vacation. I talked to him. He like, man, I'm chilling. I'm on the water. I'm like, I could tell. That yeah, we can tell, dog. Hey, look, man, we got. I don't know which platform is popping like this, but we got 513 people, 16 now, watching between two platforms. I probably got like 30 people on YouTube and 400 something on X, for all I know. But regardless, if you can, make sure to smash that like button, share this video, all that good stuff. We appreciate that. I'm sure Doug will tap back in at some point soon. But we'll speak to some of the stuff that he was saying. I asked a question. I said, hey, if let's just say hypothetically, maybe y'all can answer this for me in the chat. I want to hear from y'all as well. Would it have been possible for us, let's just say, take all the other players out of it, right? Because we know we had to disperse the money how we seen fit. The one thing that I want to know, because I'm not a cap expert, right? But the one thing I want to know is, would it have been possible? And we'll ask Doug this again too. So let's go ahead and do this now. So Doug, I was asking you before you tapped out. I said, would it have been possible for if we take out all the money that they spent on all the other players and they just wanted to go after Milton Williams after signing a JC Horn contract and they wanted to pay and match what New England was offering, would it have been possible for them to do that?
It would have been possible, but answer this question again. We said the depth piece. What do we need? We need depth. So
Mm-hmm.
again, a two for one, or would you just want one player and then somebody goes down? Then what do you have to do going next? So I understand going right after the big fish,
Mm-hmm.
but you got three fish that equivalent one big fish. Which one would you rather have?
I mean, yeah, obviously you wouldn't want to like overpay. Like that would be 26 million when you don't have a ton of cap space to make other moves would be insane. No doubt.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I guess my thinking was I just wanted to know if that could have been possible if they wanted to do that. So he made the smart play because I really like the Bobby Brown signing. I think of all the ones that we made, I like the Trayvon Morig and Moreg. I think I'm saying that right. And I like the Bobby Brown. Those are my favorites, right? Of all of the two. And I want to ask
Hmm.
somebody else. I don't know if I've talked to this person before. Oh Lord, I'm 3 people on the stage. Hold on one second. Let me add you here. Yeah, I'm doing this in real time. My bad, y'all. All right, so let me see. Doug, I'm going to add you here. And then I got somebody else that just tapped in named Christian. Christian, what's up, man? I don't know if you can hear us, but you're in the show. What's good?
Oh yes, sir. I can hear you, man. I appreciate to be on here, man.
Yeah, no doubt. We appreciate you coming through. What you got?
Oh man, I love the moves he made. I think the fan base they kind of crashed out, and I don't think it's Dan's fault. I think it's the media's fault because Twitter, well X, whatever you want to call it. We had him. Milton was on the team, and then all of a sudden, Twitter crashes, Then you come back, and then we was like, "Oh, the deal's not done."
Yeah.
And that was the best thing that happened to us is that Twitter crashed because
Oh
I'm not
man.
sure how we would have treated Dan
Oh man. It would have been
throughout
bad
that.
for him.
I think it would have been a bloodbath.
Yeah, it'd have been
Um,
bad for him.
I like the moves we made. I love the moves we made because I think what the fan base has to understand is stop trying to live off names and
Yeah.
name recognition. And I understand why Dan didn't pay him. And I wasn't if a guy's not equal or better than Derrick Brown, I'm not paying him more than Derrick Brown. If he was better or equal to Derrick Brown, then I would have been upset with Dan for not matching it. Because I'm like, okay, this guy is equal to Derrick Brown, or he's better than Derrick Brown. But I'm like, I think a lot of people, I guess, because people don't watch, Wharton is actually a little bit better than that guy,
Mm-hmm.
and we got him for a steal because he's worked a lot with Chris Jones, and he's worked. He was undrafted, and a lot of guys don't really know about him because they don't watch Chiefs games. And I'm like, I watch everybody, so
Mm-hmm.
I got a chance to see all these different players. Even the guy we got from the Raiders, he's great stopping the run. So we got some guys in here. I'm like you said, I'm interested to see what we do on offense. I'm really interested in seeing what we do on offense because I'm like, okay, I've seen all the wide receivers go, and I'm like, what we gonna do now?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I'm
Doug, what
like,
you think
what we
about that?
doing?
Doug, what's your thoughts?
Excuse me. I mean, uh, I definitely don't disagree with him because again, um, our fans are the crash out network. I just put it like that. Yeah, I mean, if I lose followers, if I lose people that say, "Doug, I'm not that," our fans are crash out network. One thing that people also have to understand: use us three gentlemen as people or bosses. Um, we have we have Scott Fitterer has put a damper on this team with moves, losing draft picks, having draft picks not work out.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the whole thing with Jonathan Brooks, um, Xavier Leggett. Again, they're in 1 year. But when you had Scott Fitterer come in and he had years
Mm-hmm.
not making great moves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at these teams that have made the Super Bowl, teams that made the playoffs. They don't have players that are no longer on the team. You have
Right.
players that's been on the team 5 to 6 years. One thing
Right,
that I love that Dan Morgan's trying to do is do a youth movement, and meaning a youth movement, you want people to grow. The only thing that I am afraid of is if Evero leaves,
Mm-hmm.
can these same players work in the scheme that you want to go forward? And I do think, long as Dave Canales is the head coach, we will be running at 3-4,
One
which
hundred
is a
percent.
good thing.
One
Which is
hundred
a
percent.
good thing because
100%.
again,
Yeah,
you're getting players, regardless of a coach leaving, that can play in a 3-4.
Mm-hmm.
Again, our true nose tackle and Bobby Brown. And then I can't think of his name because I've been doing slides. I'm multitasking today. But the
Mm-hmm.
young man that we got out of KC, those are
Tark
oh,
two
Wharton.
bit
Wharton,
bodies.
Yeah.
Wharton.
Yes, they're
Mm-hmm.
they're they're two, they're two bit bodies and body types that we have not had.
Right.
Long
It's nothing against
time.
shot. I don't call him shot turtle. I call him shot turtle. Again, he'll see me at training camp if he got something to say. I'm like, man, it's nothing against you. It's just like, as a fan, I don't wish any bad about you, but you got to do something with your craft, man.
Hey, Doug,
And for
hey,
me,
that nigga might smoke you in training camp, dog.
hey,
Like, you
hey,
know
look,
Oh man,
hey, John, I
I'm
ain't no
with you.
smoke.
Call him out.
John, look, hey,
Call
I'll
him
say
out,
this.
man.
He may bigger in weight, but I'm bigger in height. That's all I'm gonna
look
say.
at me
So,
being messy. Look at me being messy.
Hey,
hey,
I'm on
but
your side. Call these players out. Hey, we ain't no friends. We need people to do their job.
Nah,
You
I feel
know
you.
what I'm saying?
correct. I will say this. He took a pay cut. I literally thought he would be a cap casualty. He took a pay cut,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, I was surprised he did that
I,
actually.
I he'll be at camp, but depending on, because I think Cromedy can take a death piece from him.
I'm interested to see how he looks going
because
into next year.
yeah. So again, I mean, everything that both of you gentlemen are saying, I think Carolina is just doing the right thing right now. Again, we needed. Let me turn my camera because I think I'm out the camera. We needed depth. We needed depth and we needed starters. One thing
Mm-hmm.
that we needed a safety. To go with Damani Richardson, you have another safety in the room right now.
Mm-hmm.
So outside of that, you only have two safeties on the roster.
Yeah.
Um, Again, this is only day one. People think once day one is done, free agency is gone. No, this is where you lead everything up to the draft. You have
Mm-hmm.
everything leading up to the end of the week. And then actually after the draft, you still have people that sign based off of veterans that want to go to a particular situation. Just like what we did with Jadeveon Clowney. We didn't
Yeah.
get Clowney till after the draft.
That's right.
So um
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask y'all a question
I'm
real
good
quick.
with my bad, John.
Let
Go
me.
ahead.
No, you good. You good. Let me ask you a question real quick. Which, by the way, Richard Farron said if they draft Mason Graham, it's over for Tuttle. Oh yeah, without question. But
Thanks.
Mike Ty
Well,
asked
that's
something
still
here.
his fault.
Mike Ty said, "Nah, look, Mike Ty. Which Mike Ty are we talking about? Because we talking about
He said
we
about
talking
Pastor
about
Ty.
we talking about that Mike Ty. That hey, or we talking about somebody? But anyway, all right. So he said, who do you feel fits Avero's scheme best at 8?
Chris,
I
you
would
want to
have
go
to
ahead?
go with
Go
Will.
ahead.
Go ahead, Christian.
I would have to go with Will Johnson, the
Oh wow.
cornerback,
Okay.
because cornerback is really important in his scheme. Um, the safety depth too. So I would probably go with Will Johnson,
Okay.
and I think the team should go that direction. I know our biggest need is edge, and I solely agree on that. That is our biggest need.
Mm-hmm.
But for Evero, his defenses have been successful when he's had uh, you know, edge by committee. That's a new thing. Edge by committee. He's
Yeah, I
he's
could.
had
Yeah.
an edge by committee, sack by committee.
Mm-hmm.
Because Denver was always solid on defense. Their problem was always if the secondary was banged up, that's when they had trouble.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it was like, oh my gosh, they need an edge. But I would probably go with Will Johnson. I think that's the safest choice because I just don't see some of the picks that we would want falling. That's another thing too,
Mm-hmm.
falling. And are we really committed on? I know they want the Walker from Georgia, but I think Will Johnson is the one because if you're gonna fit Evero's scheme, he needs secondary. That's the most important in his scheme, especially safety, which we were lacking there. That's another part because it's like JC really didn't have any help, and I know we still got Michael Jackson, but we still need somebody else back there if it's gonna work. Because we did in the later seasons. I didn't mean to go too long, but in the
You good?
later seasons, we did get a lot of pressure,
Mm-hmm.
but we were getting really burnt from the secondary in the second half of the season
Mm-hmm.
versus because it was a lot of games where we got a couple sacks. We got like 4 sacks. We caused a lot of turnovers
Yeah.
at the last couple games, last back half of the season. So I'm like, hey, I'm just saying, I think we should probably go corner. I don't know what you guys think, but I would go corner. That's just me. I would go Will Johnson.
All right, Doug. Before you go, I want to ask a question real quick. Do
Go ahead.
y'all think that it's possible? And Doug, you can respond to Christian, and then I want you to answer this as well. We
All right, yes,
saw
sir.
Jalen Walker is fascinating to me because I'm not so sure that Jalen Walker in the NFL won't be what we saw from Abdul Carter in college. What do I mean by that? He spent time playing off ball and edge at times, right? Whereas Abdul Carter was like solely off ball and went solely to edge. Are we not so sure that Jalen couldn't have that same kind of trajectory, but he does it in the pros where it really, really counts? You know what I'm saying? Like, and if that's the case, do you think that that's a gamble that they would want to take right there? Because I'm going to be honest with you, with the Jalen situation, I got questions. If you're not playing him at edge, what are you doing with Trevin Wallace? Like, are y'all rotating this? Like, is this like a rotational thing? What are you doing with,
That's a great question.
with Josie Jewell? You know what I'm saying? So if he's going to play off ball, If he's gonna play like legitimate, like full-time edge, then I could totally understand that, right? Because that's been my whole argument about like James Pierce, Mike Green, Shamar, all these other guys, Donovan Ezraku, as opposed to a Jalen Walker. Because if you bring him in and he gets any of the time and attention at off-ball linebacker, you are basically saying that you don't believe in Trevin Wallace 100%. That's my opinion. What do you think, Doug?
I agree 100% with that, and that's why I'm not really too keen on taking Walker because I'm like, what is the point? Because you're basically gonna be like, well, we don't really believe in you, Tremont. You know, we think you're like a rotational piece, but I'm like, we never really gave this guy an opportunity until it was too late, and then he showed a lot of promise at the back end of the season, and we got a lot of, now we were like, well, do we have an edge problem? So that's when I'm with you 100%. I like Abdul Carter. I
Mm-hmm.
have questions on him too, as well. I just feel like he's not Micah Parsons. I as much as I like him, Abdul Carter, he's not as fast and he's not as a monster as Micah.
Doug, what you
That's
think?
just me when it comes to
So for me, they want to get this player that is just not in a box, meaning
Mm-hmm.
that they want a player that's multifaceted,
Mm-hmm.
a player. I think everybody, we're talking about the Panthers, but every team wants that Michael Parsons that can put his hand in the dirt, he can
Mm-hmm.
stand up, and he can play in coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One thing I don't like is comparing a player to another draft because again, that puts
right,
pressure on a player to come in out the gate. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
I need you to do X, Y, and Z. Hey, I want you to be this particular
right.
player. I want you to do this. I'm okay with saying I need you to be the switch army knife for our defense.
Right.
We had a switch army knife in the Jeremy Chin. He just didn't fit the scheme. That goes back to the very first point where I said we need to bring in players regardless of scheme
Mm-hmm.
that if they're in a 3-4, we bring in another 3-4 coordinator in, they can play in a 3-4.
Right.
So again, we also have to remember when we're drafting now, they're not pros. When you're drafting these players, let's just say Evero leaves, we go into 3-4. We may need this player to play a different position. I'll give an example:
Mm,
Simmons. That
Mm-hmm.
that with the Arizona, everybody wanted Carolina to get him. He never
Oh,
worked
I'm
out in
glad we didn't,
Arizona
man. Yeah.
because
ooh,
when you look at it, you're looking at traits,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to look at
right.
longevity of a player, meaning that this player can play in this scheme, this player can play,
Right.
multifaceted. I'm saying multifaceted, but basically being that switch army knife.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'll go back to where you said with number 8. Me personally, you already know how I did my mock draft, John. You went in the trenches, regardless of who you have in coverage. You
Mm-hmm.
can have anybody back there. Look at all the defenses Carolinas have had over the years. If our trenches were dominated, it didn't matter who was in the DB room. You needed that vocal leader. You needed that thumper in the middle of the linebacker court. But for me, I'll give you 3 names. And I know you said at 8, and I think this is how a bit board goes to as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, we do have 2 divisional opponents right behind us.
Yep.
If Mason Graham falls, you don't want Mason Graham to either go to Atlanta or you do not
No,
want him to go to the
Yeah,
Saints.
I
yeah,
agree.
that's
Then
cool.
you look at
I agree.
you look at Pierce Jr. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want him to go to New Orleans, who needs a
Yeah.
edge,
Mm-hmm.
and Atlanta needs an edge. I also look at Mike Green. But again, me and John did a mock draft, and I said, John, with everything going on right now, if you check every box, what is the problem with you trading back? Only thing with that is you have to know your board. You have to know who you're bringing in. You got to know how op- your opponents, meaning that the NFC South, how they're going to draft. Again, we know Atlanta needs defensive help. New Orleans, we really don't know what Kellen Moore is going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, yes, they freed up money, but they just re-signed Chase Young last night for 3 years.
Right.
I don't think Chase Young deserved a three
I
year.
went
I'll at
back
least
in
give
the
him a one or
hole.
2 year. So again, for me, it's trench warfare,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that you bolster those trenches. Again, we did the post Super Bowl. John, me, you both said, where do you win the game? Who won the game? Both lines, offensive line and
Absolutely.
defensive line.
Yeah.
So again,
Yeah.
Yup.
the more pressure that you are able to rotate a player that John loves and Deion Walker out of Kentucky, look at that. again, that was further in the draft. But like you said, Doug, if he comes in and there's a different body type that an offensive line who's been getting beat up and leaned on, why not go and get that particular player to come in and then give you that different tempo or different type of player?
Hey,
So
Christian, let
for
me ask you a
me, I would
question.
say in the trenches.
Hold on one second, Doug. Christian, how tall are you, bro?
Oh man, I'm 6'2".
All right, Doug, how tall are you?
6'2".
All right, I'm 6'5". So check it out. So Christian, you got to fight him first, right? Because Christian a dog, right? So he wearing you out. Then Doug come out of nowhere with a chair, and Doug 6'2", and he military, so he don't get winded. Then at the end of it, you got to deal with me. And when you dealing with me, I ain't gonna do nothing. I'm out of my prime, bro. I was telling my wife the other day, I was like, yo, I am washed. Like in every facet of life, I'm washed. I'm old. But if I show up and you just see 6'5", you just like, man, what? And that's how I look at the Philly situation. I'm like, man, you got to deal with Milton and Jalen. I showed the clip earlier. Not sure if y'all saw it. I understand why people were frustrated with the Milton situation, because on that play, at the very end of the last drive of the game, Bryce Young in the end zone going to Leggett where he broke containment. I think it was Jalen Carter that actually ripped off his shirt or whatever when he was throwing the ball to Xavier Leggett. Who did they double? Who did they double on that play? They doubled Milton. That's right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so you dealing with all of that. That Jordan Davis ain't even in the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, and now you got to come and do. That's my whole purpose.
They let Carter off though.
Yeah, they did. So they did, but they had Robert Hunt. Like, to me, it was interesting because that shows their belief in Hunt and just how, much of a dog and how great of a player that Hunt is. But they slid the protection to Milton. That's why I understand people was crashing out, because they like, yo, do y'all see this? And it's like, yo, you lost out on that. But I heard something to speak to your point that you said, Doug. You said when you were talking about the depth and like who you want to go where, like once you slide outside of 8 and you got those divisional rivals behind you. I heard Adam Schefter say this, and I want to get y'all's take on this because I believe this wholeheartedly. He said, once you get past pick 10, right, and especially for us, for a team that more than likely our first 2 picks are going to be something on defense. I say more than likely, right? I don't know this for sure. But once you get past a certain group of guys, you get past your Abdul, you get past Mason Graham, right, and Travis Hunter. Those are your top of the top guys. You could say Will Johnson. Some people said Malachi Starks. I personally think Nick is the best safety in the draft. That's just me, right? But you start getting with you on that one. You start getting past players like that. Really, it's a crop of guys that like you don't really need to be at the top to be able to master your draft, because everybody's kind of like the same. When you start talking about Shamar and Nick Skirton, or you talk about Landon Jackson and Donovan Ezeraku, right? Or you talk about, Princely and JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State. Like, those are value guys, because at any given year that you look at those guys, they could have been higher picks. It just happens to be that they're in a draft that is extremely loaded with edge and defensive tackle play, right? So, like, in your opinion, or in my opinion, that's why I wouldn't move back, because I've been getting that a lot. People be like, yo, man, we need to move back. No. Because if you think like you said, Christian, if Will Johnson is your guy and he's number 1 on your board, I'm taking him. If Mason falls right there, I'm taking him. If Tet is right there, I'm taking him. I'm not going to sit and watch any one of these guys at the top, especially if I think like what the guys that cover this league like Adam and Mel Kiper and all them think like that, you can get value in second, third, day guys. I'm not going to let any of these potential blue chip guys go to my, division rival and have to deal with them twice a year. Right. That's my thing on Tet. Is like with Tet, because if Tet does become the Mike Williams archetype, I'm telling y'all, man, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a huge problem.
Hey, John, let me say this. Go ahead, Christian. Go ahead.
No, you good. You go ahead, bro.
I was gonna say this. What I mean by trade back, if the board, if there's not 3 quarterbacks taken and all those blue collar players are gone, definitely trade back. That's
really?
I mean, if Mason Graham's gone, yes, because so you remember now you can go back. You remember I said John, if 3 quarterbacks are taken in the top 5, I said we're gonna get a blue chip player. Then you stay. But where I'm getting at is if there are 2 quarterbacks taken, You got Mason Graham off the board, Aldou
Mm-hmm.
Carter, Will Johnson starts. Why not trade back? Because again, Dan Morgan wants to build this team through the draft. He said it. I've heard it. You know, I talked to Dan, and Dan, everything that I told you behind the scenes is
Mm-hmm.
came into fruition.
Yeah, you really
He and
that's a fact.
so again, I take this man's word. Again, everybody was like, "Oh, Doug, what did he say?" He basically double dipped. He literally, what was the term that you was like, "Doug, what do you mean by double dip?" He said that he's going to double dip on the trenches and be aggressive. It didn't work out, and again, that's the reason why I can't blame him because he said he was going to be aggressive. Nobody knew that we were going to attack Milton Williams that quick.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, his team or somebody addressed it because I
Yeah,
honestly think
I ain't
now
that.
we I honestly think we were going to get Milton Williams and Bobby Bone and Bobby Brown Jr. If we did that, I think people would have blew their top for Dan Morgan and been like, "This is the
Yeah.
supposed to be the GM that we needed." But again, he still double dipped because he still got two defensive tackles.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. He's even said that trade back is not out of the option. But again, I am with you. If we take three quarterbacks in the top, if three quarterbacks are taken in the top five, Carolina's going to get a blue chip caliber player that's
Agreed.
going to come in automatically. Again, the game is won in the trenches, regardless of who you have in your back four. The game is won in the trenches. On the offensive side of the ball, look when we came from the bottom of the barrel to a top 10 offensive line right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Christian,
for
what you
me,
got?
it's
Go ahead. I'm my bad. Christian, you kind of breaking up a
uh,
little bit. You
Man,
still there?
I agree 100%. Yeah, I'm still here. You can still hear me?
Yeah, I can.
yeah,
It's
he
getting
breaking up on
choppy.
my
Yeah, you're
end.
breaking up a little bit on my end too. You were clean for a while, man. I don't know where you if you moved to somewhere else, but like,
Hold on, I'm gonna come right back and I'm gonna come back in. Hold on.
bet.
Hey, John, I'm about to get up. You know I ain't at home. You know I'm over here with the fiance now, so I'll be back home tomorrow, man. So, like I said, you already know that's where I've been at. I've enjoyed my vacation. Like I said, so I'll be back. It will be back Thursday. But you know I had to come chop it up with you, man. I've been like I said, behind the scenes listening to everything, but we'll be back in Texas on tomorrow. Then we'll be live Thursday, man. So you know I had to come chop it up with my guy.
Word. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you a lot, man.
You already know.
Salutations to you and your family, man. Y'all enjoy your vacation. I'm looking forward to linking up with you.
Oh yeah. Like I said, do you want to go ahead and tell everybody? Or
What
you
is
want to
I
save it?
save it because I don't. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Okay.
I need to promo it, and I don't remember the exact date right off the top of my head. But
Okay.
yeah, let's
Okay.
tap in with me. I'm gonna be free probably after like 6 o'clock. But yeah, text me and then we'll go from there.
Okay. I'll text you tonight because like I
Bet.
said I'm gonna hit the road tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, bet. All right, everybody stay safe. Everybody keep pounding. I'll see y'all later.
See you, man. Salute to my guy Dub. We're gonna bring Christian back real quick, and then I am going to Christian. What's up, man?
What's up, man? What's up, man?
All right, so it's just me and you. So I wanted you to let you finish your thought on just to kind of recap what we were talking about. We were talking about. So I'm gonna frame this up. This is the last thing, and I'm gonna jump off here after this. But Doug basically said that he would trade back. I saw you had a little bit of pushback to that. I definitely had some pushback to that because I still think even if Mason, let's say Mason and Will Johnson are off the board, I still think you can get a premium player at that 8 spot, right? And we've got too many examples in history to show that to be the case. What is your take on whether or not we should trade back based on the moves that you've seen us make today and projecting the moving forward?
Well, based on the moves we made today, yesterday, um, trading back right now, I wouldn't trade back because one, I think there's gonna be, like I said, like you said too, I think the quarterback situation, I think there's gonna be one quarterback taken,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you're gonna see scramble like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Cam the Browns are not taking a quarterback. What are we going to do? And I think that's when you're going to see what we're going to do next. And I think should stay because I think you got so many other guys. I mean, outside of the three guys, I think that we can probably all agree with that is, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and Mason Graham. Those are the three best players in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
then you got everybody else, and I think you still got premium. And I agree with Adam Scheffner. After I would say I would be a little bit nicer. I think after 13, you're not getting the same quality of generational talent. You're not getting the same quality because I think once you get out of 13, that's it. Because I mean, you had Ted McMillan. Some people had a tight end from Penn State, Hyde and Ashton Genty. After that, that's just I mean, you're getting a lot of guys that would have been first round picks, but they're really like second round picks
Mm-hmm.
being picked in the first round. So after you get to top 13, it's death pieces. So I wouldn't trade back unless there's a offer you cannot deny, unless somebody's giving you like, hey, we'll give you T. Higgins and we'll give you the 18th pick. Like
Mm.
that's the only way. You know,
So that
I've,
brings
I've
up a
heard
great
that before.
question. So let me ask you this real quick. So Jamar Chase obviously saying, he wants to get paid. T. Higgins has been franchise tag. He wants to get paid. Do you think that there's a scenario that exists where the Cincinnati Bengals would allow T. Higgins to explore getting paid by another team like us? Like, because I was looking at that too. Like that's still on the table. That could potentially break today, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that they would allow him to go out to a team like us? And what would you like? What would you say no to as far as compensation is concerned? Like if they said, "Hey, we want this pick, this and this," what would you say no to?
So I think it's possible, and I think they are going to do it because he's on a non-exclusive. So I think he can actually go negotiate,
Ah,
but they're not trying to allow him to negotiate because it's the second time.
mm-hmm.
So I told people plenty of times the price keeps going up, and excuse me, Jamar Chase, he's gonna get $40 million a year. So it ain't gonna be the 35, it's gonna be 40.
Right.
And a lot of people is not ready for that. They're going to bankrupt themselves. So they're gonna have to go ahead and trade T. Higgins. I'm gonna say no, they act straight up for the eighth. I think that's just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trading you straight up for the eighth. If they ask for next year's first, I would have to see what the compensation would be. If they asked for next year's first and they gave us a second round, I would do it. But my ideal is I would do T. Higgins, their 18th, and their third round pick this year, and I would give up our first, our third pick, and then I'll shoot a second rounder next year to sweeten the pot to say, hey, we'll sweeten it for you to make sure it's a little even. That's me being nice. But I mean, if it's just me, I'm like, look, we gonna swap. We only doing two picks. That's it. We gonna do one pick. You take 8 because I feel like we have the leverage out of them because I feel like the eighth pick is worth more than T. Higgins in their 18th pick
I
because there's so
completely
many
agree.
players.
Especially if
So
you
we
think
have
Tech
the
could be T.
leverage. Exactly. So that's the leverage that we have. So I think if we really want to do, because we were in the DK Metcalf, and a lot of people were mad about that, and I was not. I was all for getting DK, but
Same.
he's not worth 150 million. I'm sorry, he's worth 120 because I'm like, if he's worth 150, then I'm like, well, let's call 49ers and let's get Brandon Ayuk because they shopping him around
And let me
right
ask you
now.
something. Let me ask you something real quick.
What's going on?
Because I
Yes,
understand
sir.
what, because many people say the same thing when it comes to the DK, money situation. But is there a guy that, like, if you strongly have conviction on a guy, right, and you go out and pay that guy, and he's the difference, man. I'm not saying that DK would come in and propel Carolina's offense to a point where that could carry us, to a deep
Right.
playoff run. But I'm not saying that it don't either. And my question would be is there too high a price to pay for anybody that takes you to that level?
Yes and no. And it depends on the player. DK Metcalf was worth the 120, and he would definitely had helped Bryce Young. He would have helped everybody on offense, and it would have helped the development. But it's like I'm not gonna overpay for DK Metcalf, because you also have to look at the flip side of it. Yes, we want him, but also he's a head case. So you also got to take account to that. We were sold on DK, but I also knew what comes with DK, and I was willing to take the 120. But I'm like, if we're because that was what Brandon Ayuk is worth, and I get damn because the 49ers, and I know he's thinking probably what most of us are thinking, like if we really smart about it, the 49ers are shopping Brandon Ayuk. And he got a 5-year or 4-year deal worth $120 million. And he's better than DK Metcalf. So why not? It's like, you know what? The Steelers weren't even in the discussion. They just brought the bigger money, and they never spend money on wide receivers. So that was like, I mean, you can't blame Dan and the organization for that because they just came and like put 30 extra million. But Brandon Ayuk is a better player, and if we can get him and get him for less the price, because they wanted a first round pick instead of a third, and we can get Brandon Ayuk for a second right now. If we really wanted to get Brandon Ayuk, they're shopping him right now.
Yeah.
So I don't think the price is too high. I think, like I said, it goes back to with the guy that everybody crashed out about. If he's not equal or better than the player that you're trying to go after or that you have on your team, don't do it because you're going to overpay. You know, sometimes it's like, man, we'll just spend the money. And I'm like that. I've always been that just spend the money. But I also understand spend the money, but you got to be smart on your decisions because we've done too many decisions where we spent the money and did it the wrong way. And that's how you get players like, you know, who do we have on the team that we overpaid for, like a wide receiver, and we gave them like I think $10 million for one season.
Hey, hold on, man. We got breaking news. I don't have the breaking news thing, but man, I wish I had my little dun dun dun. Adam Schefter has just reported the Panthers have released Miles Sanders.
I'm shocked that they did that. I'm shocked they released Miles.
Wow. Now, this probably happened and I'm like way late on it. But, yeah, man, release Miles Sanders.
I think that. Yeah, I'm shocked they did that because of the running back depth that we have on the team. Now, I understand the fan base does not like Miles Sanders, but I've always said it wasn't all his fault because I felt like he was finally getting used the right way at the end of the season that we should have done the entire season was giving the ball, you know, use him like Alvin Kamara. I'm like, that's how Miles is successful. He's not this every down back like, you know, that they thought he was. I'm like, no, he's not like that. I didn't think Miles was a bad player, but his vision is weak, though.
Let me go to a couple of comments real quick. I want to respond to a few things. Shannon Bass said, T. Higgins' contract is a bit much to tuck within our salary cap, knowing Bryce's contract is coming up, and he's kind of injury-prone. I like him, but not at the ticket he's going to ask for. Appreciate that comment, Shannon. But here's something that Hampton Howie said, and I can't tell you how much I disagree with this. Wide receiver is overvalued, all of them. Okay, so let me ask a question. Was it overvalued when Tua Tagovailoa went from one of the lowest rated quarterbacks to one of the highest rated quarterbacks when they drafted Jalen Waddle and brought in Tyreek Hill? And they were tearing things up. He had an over 70% completion percentage. No, it wasn't. What about when the Eagles went out and signed A.J. Brown and then drafted a Heisman winner not long after that in Devontae Smith, right? Or, I mean, you could take your pick. There's so many different situations. I mean, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is the anomaly. I think here's what happens, and look, Howie, Hampton Howie, I appreciate the comment, but I think what happens is we look at a few examples and make that the exception and not the rule. We make the exception the rule, I should say, right? We look at Brady and what Brady was able to do with Edelman and Dion. I can't remember his last name, but you know the receivers that he had over the years, right? But what happened when he got a formidable receiver? What happened when he got Wes Welker? What happened when he got Randy Moss? Before Peyton Manning, man, listen, they might not have won the Super Bowl, but they won every regular season game, and he broke every passing record in 2007, right? or Tyreek
Yeah,
Hill with
great
Patrick
season.
Mahomes. Yes, man. Look, I'm telling you, you go back and you look at every like amazing Super Bowl team, and for the exception of a few, like the 2000 Ravens, or I mean, I know some people would say the Bucks that won in like what was it, '02 or something like that. Like they had Keenan McCardell, they had Mike
Yeah, the
Allstott,
Legion of Boom.
yeah, or the Legion of Boom. They had like Jermaine Kearse. I mean, shoot, the guy that was on that team that everybody was terrified of, especially when he was healthy, was Percy Harvin. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
every
Hershey,
team
man.
has formidable weapons on the team. It is hard, hard, hard to win in this league when you don't have top tier talent especially on the perimeter. Especially on
But
the
what they
perimeter.
gave Tom Brady though, tight ends.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes has a tight end. So when you got a star tight end, it's easier to plug and play wide receivers. That's why Patrick Mahomes is able to work because he has tight ends and they give him speedsters at receivers that
Yeah.
fit his game. So when they say Patrick Mahomes doesn't have wide receivers, no, he does have wide receivers, but he also has running backs and he has tight ends. So if you don't have the wide receiver that can the wide receiver help, like a real dominant wide receiver, then you need to get you a tight end. And this is something I've always wanted for Bryce is if I look, I'm all about taking a defensive player, but I don't think we should take out the possibility of taking that guy from Penn State,
I like
the
Tyler
tight
Warren.
end,
Yeah, I like Tyler Warren a lot.
because he's a game changer
Yep.
for anybody. I know we're defensive crazy, and I agree. We need it. We need it. But I'm like, sometimes you need to take a chance and say, hey, you know what? Forget that. Let's take this tight end because this tight end can really help Bryce Young. And I think if I've always said I wanted a star tight end for Bryce Young more than a star wide receiver because tight ends last longer and they're more reliable than wide receivers. And how did we get to the Super Bowl with Cam? Greg Olsen.
That's right. All right, check
Tight
this out
end.
real quick. So now I'm about to put on my conspiracy hat because as y'all can see, man, look, we got and this number is staggering to me. I appreciate the love. We got 733 people watching between two platforms. I appreciate it so much. Please make sure to smash that like button. Make sure to share this video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not One Carolina. But I'm going to put on my conspiracy theory hat for a second. So we released Raheem Blackshear. We just released Miles Sanders. We currently have on the roster, as far as running backs are concerned, Chuba Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks, right? Those are our starting, running backs at the moment. Here's a question. Is there a conspiracy that exists where, okay, like I see this. I'm going to read Trey Willis's comment real quick. Go ahead and get Scatterbo, and we'll have that maple bacon barbecue triple-headed monster when JB come back in 2026. Now, I can understand that some people, like I'm high on Jonathan Brooks, but a second ACL tear is terrifying, right? I know that you just spent a second-round pick on a running back, and I know that y'all know where I'm going with this, right? So go ahead and throw tomatoes or kill me in the chat, whatever, but I'm going to say it. Is there a chance that they might be looking at that boy at Boise State and being like, man, a running game with him added to it, double dipping a year over year? Now, do I think that will happen? No, I do not. But I do find this move fascinating, especially when you are getting rid of a player who started to finally build chemistry with his quarterback. And you don't have a second running back available to you. Now, this is a heavy running back draft, so you got some guys out there.
Yeah.
But is it possible that at 8, conspiracy theory hat, that they make that move for Genty?
The only reason I wouldn't do it is because, one, I think Dan, even if Dan wanted to do it,
Bro, he'd
I
get
just
killed.
think the
He
fan
would
base
get killed.
They would like obliterate him.
He would get killed.
I like for the only way that like this would even like he would probably get shoot some bail for if Genty just go for 1,500 yards and Chuba go for 1,000. Like that's the only way. Okay, I feel you, Dan, but I think we're going. Honestly, I think we're going after Nick Chubb. I think that's what this is.
Oh,
We're going to get Nick Chubb because
wow.
Nick Chubb is getting released from the Browns, and they are not trying to re-sign him back because they feel like he's injury prone. But he really got hurt because, like I said, the Browns are just a terrible organization. So anybody that go there, their career go down. But I think Nick Chubb's is in question. I think
Oh,
Nick
wow.
Chubb's he's
That's interesting.
cheap, and with him with Chuba, they can work together. And I think,
Yeah.
and I would probably go that route. I don't know because I don't know if we draft a guy in the second because I don't know if we draft a running back. That's just me. I think we're gonna sign running backs because we can get a lot of good running backs for cheap. Because the only reason why I don't think we're gonna draft a running back because I think that just kind of would hurt Jonathan Brooks' confidence. Because that's like drafting another quarterback. It's like, why would we draft another quarterback?
Well,
You
I'll
know,
say this. Salute to Jonathan Brooks, and I love your confidence, buddy. But if I'm Dave Canales, I got games. I got games to win. And
I'm with you.
I
I
hope,
would do it too.
yeah, I hope that your confidence is not rattled. But and look,
Right.
just for the record, that's why we call it conspiracy. Do I think they're going to draft Cam Hunt? Excuse me. I'm reading the comment and thinking at the same time. Ashton Genty at pick 8. No, I do not. But I see some names that are interesting. Shout out to Memphis Showboats fan. I haven't seen you here before, but appreciate you stopping by the channel. He says Kareem Hunt. What about Kenneth Gainwell from Philadelphia?
Yeah.
And then he says Miles
I would
Stinks.
love Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah, most people agree.
It wasn't all Miles' fault, man. I look, because I'm not gonna defend it, but I'm just saying his vision was trash. I ain't gonna lie. It was sometimes I'm like, oh my god, this dude cannot see. He cannot see.
Hey, you see this? Mr. Hunky Dory says Miles Sanders released by the Panthers after both sides negotiated a restructure, which Sanders was willing to do, but they couldn't agree per source. You know what that sound like to me? You know what, baby? It's not me, it's you. Or it's not you, it's me. You know what, man? Man, I know it's been so great, but I'm just not ready for a relationship. I'm
not ready to commit.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not ready to commit, even though on the back end you already got something that you probably gonna end up marrying in 6 months.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So to me, that's what this feels like. Because on the flip side, it also feels like, remember Norman? Norman was a few dollars off, and then he ended up in Washington. So, obviously Miles Sanders is not Josh Norman. But what I'm saying is that, look,
right.
Yeah, it's not you, it's me situation. So, because I'm pretty sure he probably did want to stay because, quite frankly, when you look at the tape, hey, the market ain't, and I hate this, man, because this is what is so cutthroat about the business. The tape ain't been the best. So if the tape ain't the best, then, the market might not be there, So I'm sure he'll land on the roster. I don't know when. I don't know what it looks like money-wise, but he'll land somewhere.
He can go back to Philly.
He could.
He can go back to Philly.
He very well could.
Because, they don't, I don't think they have a backup running back anymore. So,
where did Gainwell go? Is he a free agent?
I think he is a free agent.
Man, you really think if you Miles, think about this for a second. Before Saquon, I rushed for, what was it, 1,300 all-purpose yards or something like that? 1,400 he had? That year they went to the Super Bowl when he was there?
Yeah.
So, am I really going to go sit behind Saquon in a place where he just closed the deal that I couldn't win in the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Nah.
Well, it wasn't even Miles' fault. Like, honestly, what's so crazy about it is I think Miles will find a team. I think, the team that probably would pick him up, I think the Ravens will probably pick him up, honestly. I think the Ravens will pick him up. I think maybe New England will probably do it, because they do need some backup running backs. They running back it. Because Stevens is a fumble machine, so I could see Miles working there with Drake May. So, honestly, like I said, I don't. The problem. I do have a question. Where do you think if we if we think we're gonna draft I know most likely we're gonna draft a running back. Where do you think we're gonna draft it? Because I don't think it's gonna be second round.
I do. So in the is it the top 50 visits, or I don't know if it was the top 50 visits. I could be wrong, but I do know that I see the name. Like Shannon Bass said, Scat Pack is dope. I do like that nickname is fire, by the way. But Cam from Minnesota, I do think that's a real possibility. I think that would happen
Oh
probably.
yeah, we get him in a third.
Yeah, it's they're definitely, if they don't get somebody in free agency here, or sign somebody after the fact, they're definitely going to draft a running back after making this move, right? Especially if
Right.
you want to be, what did Dave Canales tell us last year that many of us gave him heck for? I'm going to be stubborn with the run game. Well, they drafted a guy to try to do that, and that didn't work out. So now you're going to
Right.
still have to make a move. So it likely would result in another pick, at running back. But I wanted to answer a
Right.
question real quick. Memphis Showboats fan said, host, if you have a quick second to circle back, who's Bobby Brown? Do we like him? Shout out to Whitney. Man, that's crazy. And real quick, somebody else said something that was pretty crazy. They said Panthers treated Miles like Kevin Samuel treat low quality women. That's nuts. But anyway, so
This
let's go
fan
back
base is
to
crazy.
nuts, bro. Let's go back to Memphis Showboats fan. So Bobby Brown, I spoke about this earlier. So just to kind of read off what I had shown about him from 2023. Bobby had 44 tackles in 2023. He was graded as I didn't even read this earlier. He was graded as the top interior defensive lineman in tackling with an 80.1 by Pro Football Focus. Now, granted, that was in 2023. There was somebody that was familiar with him on that roster with him when he did that in 2023 that is now here with us. That is one Ashawn Robinson. So it's possible when you get your teammate back and you get other, players that are better suited in this scheme, we might not even seen the best of Bobby Brown yet. There might be a level that he reaches that's even better than what we've seen. But more importantly, Memphis fan, I'll say this. To me, what it does is solidify what I would argue is, depending on how you want to look at it. Personally, I think the most important position in the 3-4 defense is the nose tackle. And you got him now. Because this guy is that. If there ever was one, he is that. And more importantly, like I said, I saw this earlier as far as his overall PFF grades were concerned for this season. I mean, he had a 67.7 run defensive grade. And that's important for a team that gave up over 3,000 yards rushing. So I think that, this is a good pickup. It's not the Milton Williams pickup, but, I mean, even if we look at Milton had a 43 run defensive grade. He's not the greatest in the run game, but he's really good at rushing the passer, right? So two things can be true in that department. They still were good against the rush, right? But he rushed the passer very well. So I still think we got a really good pickup there. Christian, what do you say?
Well, one, look, every little step we can take. I mean, with Bobby Brown is incredible. I like the pickup because I like depth pieces more than I like superstars.
Same.
Because one, if you don't win Super Bowls by just having one dominant guy, like we know Chris Jones, but we didn't know, you didn't know everybody around Chris Jones. Like if you watch football, you know who some guys were, but a lot of people just know Chris Jones.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you have depth pieces around. Like we have Derek Brown, and that's our guy right now. We got J.C. Horn in the back, so we got two guys. We need a third guy. We need a linebacker. That's the captain. So, but we got depth pieces, and Bobby Brown is going to give us depth pieces. A depth piece that we genuinely need. Well, like you said, we were terrible at stopping the run. We were getting so burnt up from the run. It confused me so much. It was like we were getting pressure on the quarterback, but we couldn't stop the run. That just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are we getting turnovers but can't stop the run? That just doesn't make any sense. To me, I felt like that was an effort thing. That's just me. I thought it was effort, and also too, I did want to kind of. I don't know if you ever criticize the defensive coordinator or not. But I kind of was a little disappointed with him this season because I felt like if you didn't have the guys that can run the 3-4, then as a coach, you need to switch it up a little bit to say, hey, you know what? We don't have this. Let's switch it up a little bit. Let's try to figure out how we can stop the run and
So I'm
scheme
glad you
better.
said
And I
that.
thought,
I'm glad you said that, and sorry to cut you right there, but
no, you good, you
I just
good.
want to step in for a second. So okay, so Doug said something, and I meant to. If Doug, if you still listening, I meant to speak to something that you said at an earlier point. Doug said his biggest concern, his biggest fear, is that once Ejiro Evero leaves, all these moves that they're making, that they would potentially switch defenses and go with a different type of defense, be that a 4-3. I mean, really, and salute to Captain Munderland because he said this too. Most defenses now have become, I mean, even if you have a base 4-3, like you're still going to build players around that base. If you have a base 3-4, you're going to build players
Right,
around that base. But
right.
you're going to, because of how passing, like there's so many teams that run, 3-4 wide receiver sets, you're going to see 4-2-5 more than you see a whole lot of defensive schemes, right? So you having that nickel
Yes,
defender on the field, so you're going to get 4-man fronts a lot. So it's kind of that hybrid kind of all the time now, right? But it's still important to
yeah.
build towards whatever your base defense is. I'm not afraid about that because of this. One, the coach that we have, he said it. Doug said, hey, I think that whoever they put in Ejiro Evero's place, be that either he gets fired or he improves drastically and finally gets that head coaching job, right? That they're going to put somebody else in there that's going to run that 3-4 defense. One, because now you have a framework. I've argued this before. I'll say it again because I know I've got new people that are listening. And salute to Panther Pickle. That's my man. Still at 26, A.J. Dillon had 24, 28 rushing yards and 18 total TDs. Appreciate that, Panther. But I've always argued this. It's important to establish infrastructure. The Pittsburgh Steelers were a 4-3 team when Chuck Noll was running it. But then in 1982, they switched to a 3-4. They've never switched back since.
Oh,
They've
that's
always
right.
been,
That's
yes,
right.
they've been a
You're
3-4
right.
defense for decades, right? So,
Yeah.
just like the Panthers had that as their mission statement for a long time. But you know what? Things change.
Yeah.
And then they decided to go with a
Right.
3-4 defense, mainly, in my opinion, because they didn't hire, but an owner bought the team that came from a team that moved to the 3-4 defense and saw so much success for so many years with that defensive base. So, like, now that you've established that, don't run from it. Don't run from it. Don't go hire somebody that's going to completely change the philosophy that where you're going to have to switch personnel. 3-4 outside linebackers don't grow on trees, but you can still find
No.
formidable pieces to make this defense work. And like you said, man, there were games where we were just getting toasted in the secondary, but we were getting pressure. So clearly there is an opportunity here for you to establish a core belief, and that core belief being your 3-4 defense, and now you can start drafting and developing. It should be plug and play. Milton Williams just left. Okay, Jordan Davis is going to get more opportunity now. We're going to go in the draft and find somebody else just like him. You know what I'm saying? The defensive tackle from Toledo or somebody like that. And we're going to put, that person in that place, and we're just going to keep doing this over and over and over again. And that's what make Howie Roseman so great. It's what's made, Ozzie Newsome so great in Baltimore. It's that same, like, just understanding, like, we got a core belief. Now all we have to do, the best organizations that you know of, places that you and I have worked at, in our lifetimes, right? Some of the blue chip organizations, be that Google, Apple,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Whatever you want to name, right? They do data and research, analytics, and all that kind of stuff to get better. But when they're establishing their core beliefs, all they got to do is plug and play. If I fire a manager or I promote a manager, I'm putting somebody else in the place that has similar traits that you can understand, like, look, this is what we do. What can you bring to it to make it better and enhance it? But we don't need you to reinvent the wheel. We just need you to bring what you do great to this and just improve what we already do. Or just be a piece that just doesn't wreck the plane. Don't wreck the car. Just come in and drive and just be a steady hand. And I think that's what a lot of these free agent moves are. It's more steady hands because Shy Tuttle should not be a nose tackle in the 3-4. I'm sorry. Salute to Shy. It's a lot of people watching right now. Shy might be one of those people. I'm not trying to disrespect you, but I think you would also say the same thing considering where you came from in New Orleans, that you have been playing out of position, right? So my
Yeah.
rant is over. What do you have to say?
Man, I'd agree with everything you just said. I did criticize Zero, but I also defended him as well too. Is that it was a lot of undiscipline and a lot of lack of communication throughout the entire season because everybody's like, man, JC didn't really have that great of a season. He was a lot of the times people don't understand that he's trying to teach these guys and help these guys, and there's a lot of lack of communication. Because I can see him asking like, "Hey, where is my help back? Right? Where is my help?" He's waving like, "Where's my help?" And he's having to defend two guys, and a lot of that is communication. I think we're gonna see a lot of that. Uh, we're gonna see a lot less of that this season because we're gonna have a lot of guys in here that are disciplined, that are ready to listen, ready to rock and roll, and a lot of times too, we just gutted our defense as well too. A lot of people don't understand that we gutted our defense to build the offensive line. So people just have to understand that part of it. But even though, like you said, I think anybody that comes in here, we should keep that philosophy because I'm with that because I see I don't think we should allow one bad season to say, "Hey, we need to move away from this, and we need to go back to what Carolina is."
Agreed. Let me welcome Panther Pickle to the show. What's up, man?
What's up?
You
How you
got it,
doing,
man.
buddy?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm all right. I'm good.
So you
Uh,
always a man with wise words, man. What can we hear from you today? Talk to us.
well, you know, the one thing that a lot of people were upset some yesterday, and one thing I want to say is, folks, let's understand something. In free agency, it's not about what you want, you go get. It's about what you want and you try to get because more than likely somebody else wants that guy too.
Yeah,
So, and that's just how it is. And um, I think we're going to be all right. I really do. And I've cautioned. I'm a guy who's always screamed we need that I want the 4-3. I want the 4-3.
hmm
But to be real, I don't really care if they run the 4-3 or the 3-4, as long as they get somebody who I consider is extremely smart and runs it right. Um,
hmm
I'm not an Ivero fan, but so far I haven't seen anything to give me to be a fan of him. Now he's getting some pieces this year. I like all the pieces he's getting. So we'll just have to wait and see what he can do this year. But here, the way the Panthers luck go, my friends, we're going to end up in the playoff with the top five defense. And Ivero's no longer under contract, and he's gonna go somewhere else and be a head coach. That's what's
right.
gonna happen.
It's very
Oh
possible.
man, that would make me so upset. I'm like,
It's
no,
very
keep
possible.
him under, lock him in.
Well, I don't think you can. And I mean, honestly, I think
Yeah,
that's best case scenario. If that happens,
right.
because I feel like you would have somewhat, there's going to be people on this roster like, look, he would be way down the totem pole, but like Darren Bates, who's been around for all these years, who's to say that he don't start getting
Hmm.
promoted, up to assistant and then
Right.
potentially
Oh
defensive
yeah.
coordinator.
Yep.
Or some of these new guys that they hired, right? So my guess is that it probably would be a more internal thing, and who knows that better than Dave Canales, who did the same thing himself. You know what I'm saying? Kind of,
Right.
rose up from the ranks. I don't think they would
Right.
go out unless there's a name like a Vic Fangio, which there won't be, out there that you would just, that's a no-brainer. Like, it's like, all right, yeah, I'm definitely going to bring in what is the architect of the modern 3-4 into this, situation with Philly. That's not happening out. There's nobody out there like that, right? So
Right.
in that case, yeah, you probably would if he gets, hired somewhere as a head coach or wants to go to a different team or whatever that looks like. The thing that I don't want to happen, Pickle, I don't want to
Yeah.
see him get fired, because if he gets fired, that means we're going through another season of an
Oh.
absolutely terrible defense, and now you've drafted players. It's like I saw somebody say this the other day. They were
Hmm.
like, man, the worst place that Shador could get drafted to is the New York Giants. Why? Because Brian Dable is 1 foot out the door. So if you get drafted there, yeah, cool. You got drafted high, you went to the Giants, all that kind of stuff. But it's highly unlikely they're going to bring in a coach that's going to like him as a quarterback, and now that cycle starts all over again. And I feel like the same thing would
Yep.
happen with any players that we
Yeah.
pick, that we get.
Yeah, and the one thing I like about some of these moves we've made, especially this year, is some of these guys will actually fit both defenses.
Mm-hmm.
They'll fit the 4-3 or the 3-4. And if I had to go out and pick a coordinator, I I would pick a guy who can make advantage and use a little bit of both,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that makes a better defense. But you got to have smart players for that. Last year we didn't. I mean, that's just last year our defense was awful. And the one thing I highly criticized Evero of was of the issue where he wouldn't let Horn travel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that part. I know he tried to explain it. I didn't really still understand why he didn't allow Horn to travel. Um, and the Cowboys game, Fuller was just getting whipped by Lamb, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just literally destroyed. Ivero flat out didn't change anything until it was too late. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
late in the fourth quarter he changed, but we'd already we'd already got our butt handed to us by then. Simple things like that I criticize Ivero on, but it's definitely not personal. I just feel he has to get and I don't know that maybe, and I want to be careful with this. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know that maybe they've had a conversation with Ivero on some of these things, and he had to look like other coaches do, like David Tepper did. He had to look into himself and say, some of this stuff is me, and I need to correct this issue. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's very possible. Now let me ask you this: what's your thoughts on the Miles Sanders release?
um, I'm not surprised. I expected it to happen. I had read and found out that he was due 5.9 million on a roster bonus if he's on the roster the third day of the new league year.
Mm-hmm.
Shy total was due around that much as well. But and both of those were contract made by Samir Suleiman, by example.
Mm-hmm.
So so when uh so when but Shy Tuttle and the Panthers had made offers to both of them
Mm-hmm.
to redo their contract so they can stay around if they want to. Now, Miles Sanders didn't, and Shy Total did. That's why Shy Total's still on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Shy Total ain't going to make but about 3 million this year,
Right.
and I think he's still on a 1 year deal, so he's not coming back here after this year. But we have to remember too, Shy Total was a local kid.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up being a fan of the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
To him, this is his dream playing for his childhood team. So I expect Shy Total, honestly, unless he goes somewhere else and plays, it wouldn't doubt me that Shy Total may be around in the future as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because he really likes the area. It's his hometown, and he really likes the Panthers. So,
Yeah.
and he may be good depth, but as far as the starting nose, the Bobby Brown is definitely the true nose we need.
100%. I think, and I'm not. I wouldn't even say the true. I think it's markedly better, than
Oh,
Shy.
absolutely.
Because really, I think, like you said, Shy only making $3 million a year. He's still
Yeah.
gonna have some value coming in as
Yes.
a rotational piece because he's a fresh body,
Right.
right? Who understands the scheme. Who look, and Shy ain't a slouch, man. I feel like Shy, like I feel about Xavier Leggett, man. You get sprung into action somewhere. Like when we got Shy from New Orleans, it was for a reason, right? So you get sprung into action because I've made this argument about XL. Like I think that the developmental path for XL was more kind of the Rashee Rice, development in Kansas City, where he's not asked to be your primary target, but you got a lot of different things you can do with him that can, kind of show his athleticism and how he can operate in open space. And then when the Deontay Johnson situation fell apart, he got sprung into being the X. It's like, all right, well, you got to be here, right? And he showed that he can,
Right.
If he continues the development, you can see where he could take that next step and continue to, grow to the kind of position that they feel like he can be, long term, but just not in the short term. Like he wasn't gonna come out and be Malik Neighbors right away. You know what I'm saying? And so
Right.
it's interesting to see, what they do. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think somebody threw out, and I think it was Christian before he dropped, He threw out Nick Chubb. Do you think there's a chance that they go out and grab a Nick Chubb or a Kareem Hunt, someone like that?
No, I don't think Nick Chubb. I like Nick Chubb, but that injury Nick Chubb had scared me a little. And I would expect Nick Chubb would come in and kind of be the starter. You know, he
Mm-hmm.
would be reinforce the issue as a starter.
Yeah.
I don't think they're looking for competition with Chuba as much as they're looking for a
Compliment.
backup for Chuba.
Mhm.
Yeah, because and and for those maybe in your chat that's going to bring this up, I
Mhm.
do like Scatterbo a lot, and I
Yeah.
really would like to draft him. And there's a bunch of other young, good running backs in this draft class. But folks, let's remember, right now as it currently stands, we have 2 running backs on this roster.
Yeah.
Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard.
That's it.
We'll have to add a couple more, at least a couple more,
Yeah.
before the regular season. One, I would expect one through the draft and one in free agency.
Yeah. I
Well,
would agree with that.
Right. I actually, now as I said that, I think we do have another one. He was on our practice squad last year, but I don't remember his name.
Is it who were you talking about earlier? You were talking about AJ Dillon. I'm thinking about somebody else.
Yeah. Now I like AJ Dillon,
Mhm.
but I'm an old fashioned fan, my friend. I loved Derrick Henry. I
Mhm.
like my big boys, my big power backs.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a Dillon fan. So
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Man, Pickle, I would love to talk to you much longer, but I do have to get off of here, man. This
right,
has
man.
been fascinating, man. Look, I'm gonna go live again probably sometime later this week. I know that you
Okay.
do the Friday free for all. I hadn't tapped in with y'all there in quite a while, so I might come through Friday.
Right.
So it won't be on Friday.
All right.
It might be on Thursday. But man, it was great talking to you. I hope you're doing well, man.
All right. Anytime, brother. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. I'll talk to you soon.
Man.
Man, it's been a great live. We've seen a lot of things happen that we didn't expect. Didn't expect to see Miles get dropped, today, and I say that respectfully. When I've always said this, I said this once, and I'll repeat it. When we brought in Miles Sanders, I didn't think that we were going to draft Bryce Young, because I think what made Miles Sanders so great and why he worked was the threat of Jalen Hurts running. A lot of the RPO, they were like 70% RPO that year, a lot of read option, you know what I'm saying? And so if you got the threat of Jalen Hurts running, it kind of gives Miles the opportunity to go operate if the defensive end crashes, whatever. And I just didn't think that I really thought, like, man, they really are considering Anthony Richardson. Like, wow, this is crazy. So when we drafted Bryce Young, I'm like, okay, that was a head scratcher. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. And so the production dropped off significantly, right? But hopefully he lands on his feet. Man, I tell you, what we did see in the last effort from him, I hope is what we see from him moving forward. Of course, not on any team that we would be facing, because I'm sure he'd be motivated, right? But nonetheless, what we saw in Atlanta, hey, Miles, man, salute to you. Thank you for your contribution to this organization in a time where, it's easy to dunk on guys. It's so easy to dunk on guys like Ian Thomas. It's easy to dunk on guys like Miles, who don't necessarily produce. But, man, I'm telling you, it's a testament to the fact that it is so hard to play football on a team when you have dysfunction. It's hard to do anything in life if you don't have good talent in good places. Business owners will tell you the hardest thing to do in business is to hire good people. So salute to someone like Miles, salute to Ian Thomas, and anybody else who doesn't make this team coming this year that has been on this team over the last 7 years and have given their blood, sweat, and tears to try to do everything in their power to make this team a formidable team. Like, it'd be one thing if all these players were of the Deontay persuasion, you know what I'm saying? But this is not that, right? What Jesus say, that this ain't that and that ain't this. These are guys who have showed up, who have trained. These guys don't get into no mess in the offseason. We don't see no crazy videos from them on their personal accounts. These are dudes that have come in and worked their tail off repping this. Keep pounding. For us, it might not have showed up in wins. You know what I'm saying? It showed up in a whole bunch of losses. But like I said, you must be saluted, if by nobody else, by us over here at One Carolina, for your contribution to this team and wearing that processed blue jersey. For that, we thank y'all. Man, I got another super chat before I bounce. Shannon said, appreciate the time and the content. Shannon Bass, you're one of my favorites. Always show up, always supporting. Thank you so much for the super chat. Got the new super chat drop. Yeah. So I appreciate that. I can't tell y'all how much I've enjoyed this, man. We had 800 still. We still 800 strong. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't been really looking to see where, it's dispersed. We got 823 people watching between two platforms. I don't know if that's, split evenly between this Twitter and or X and YouTube or what, but I didn't expect this. I'll be honest with you. I did not expect this, but I do appreciate y'all rocking with your boy. I'm very, very thankful of that. Soggy Swiss, that's a crazy name, said W Dono. Sean Curry, great content. I appreciate that. Deontay Foreman might be available. Might be. Who knows? Might be. But either way, man, y'all make sure to smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, that bell notification so you never miss a video. I'm John Farmer from the One Carolina Show. I am coming back soon. I see somebody else is trying to join, but I'm actually getting ready to jump off because I got stuff I got to do. A concert today I got to attend for my daughter, so I got to get prepared for that. I'll be back again soon, y'all, so we can tap in, we can talk. But until then, you know the drill. Keep pounding.